Greetings and salutations, Ravage Rider here. As I'm planning a motorcycle trip into Yellowknife this summer, and I'm not entirely sure what to expect, I thought this would be a great opportunity to bring in someone who has done this trip before. I would like to welcome a special guest to this episode. Please welcome Rob from the YouTube channel Dead Nought. Welcome, Rob. Thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Before we get into some questions, please tell the viewers a little about your channel. You have two channels on YouTube, is that correct?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And so I actually have two different channels. Both I was mostly active when I lived in Edmonton, but I started one after I was more active on my first one, which is my name, Rob Truscott. That one started as just a vlog, talking head, just talking to the camera all the time. And then I wanted to make one that was more motorcycle related. So it started as just how to enjoy riding in and around Edmonton. And it was just about live your life, have fun. And this is me doing it. And it was all due to my cancer diagnosis in 2014. So now I've got both channels active and I'm trying to make sure I do the content differently between them.
Thanks so much for sharing. I actually had no idea that you were in Edmonton for so long and had started the channel in Edmonton. You and I met up online. You introduced me to the Canadian group of moto YouTube channel enthusiasts and the like. So yeah, I appreciate that introduction to that group as well. Please go check out Rob's channels and support him by subscribing. Okay, let's get into the questions. You previously mentioned to me that you did the trip from Edmonton to Yellowknife solo. What year and month did you do this in?
I actually tried it a few times because I moved to Edmonton in 2014 from Yellowknife. I used to live in Yellowknife. And so I wanted to try to get back there for basically the 20th, 21st of June, because they have what they call the Midnight Sun Rally, where because it's the shortest night of the year, which in Yellowknife means, well, it actually, you can read a paper all night from about May onward, but that is you watch the 10-minute sunset kind of thing. And so I wanted to get back up for that rally. So I had actually tried to do it in 2016, but the way it worked out is I got scheduled a cancer treatment, which would have been, I believe it was around the 17th of June. So yeah, I wasn't going to be able to jump my motorcycle immediately following and head up because my treatments were 1 week apart back then. And so I actually ended up being able to do it the following year because my treatment was literally 2 days after I got back. So just the way the calendar worked. So it was basically from around the 18th and 19th. Then I was there for the 20th, 21st, 22nd, came home like 23rd, 24th was my trip for June 2017.
Do you have any recollection of the temperature or weather you encountered during that June timeframe?
So overall, it was nice and clear. Your Yellowknife weather and just general Northwest Territories, as you start getting more north, it's actually fairly dry. I didn't run into much rain. You get a few sprinkles around high level, if I recollect correctly, enough to make me put on my rain gear and then took it off at my next stop. But overall, your temperatures, you're going to be in and around 20 Celsius most of the time. You can get a good heat wave in Yellowknife where you get up closer to the 30s, but also part of that is the sun's always up. So you do have a lot more heating. And so overall temperature is quite comfortable, nothing surprising.
Yeah, I did look that up. That was something I definitely looked into. Temperature. My time frame is end of July into August, long weekend, beginning of August there. And yeah, I'm seeing 20-ish temperatures, which is totally fine. Not super hot, not super cold, just quite comfortable. Burning question that I have is, what about the bugs? People keep telling me mosquitoes and horse flies are really bad. What was your experience?
So because I lived in Yellowknife before, Yellowknife has a pretty good insect program in the town. So you're actually, other than small annoying mosquitoes everywhere, you're actually in pretty good shape. So on the ride up there, yes, the bugs are huge, and there's a lot of them, to the point where, even dragonflies, you're going to get dragonflies 2 inches long. And when they hit you, it's going to sting. I actually intentionally purchased a full face helmet for that trip. When I lived up there, when I was riding, I didn't stray too far out of town. But I remember getting hit in the bugs with my half helmet. So I knew for a long trip like that, because from my door in Edmonton to my door from where I used to live in Yellowknife, I think it was 1,525 kilometers. And I kind of knew that's a bit much to be hoping I don't get hit by bugs. I did have some video, and I still can't find it because I have like 3 terabyte hard drive full of video that I've tried sorting through. And when you come to a complete stop and start seeing them, yeah, they're big. So yeah, horseflies the size of your thumb. And then if you're going at speed and one of them bounces off your helmet, it sounds like a 22 shot. Bugs are, yeah, pretty dramatic.
Pretty bad. Yeah, I did a little bit of work in Anzac area, which is just outside Fort McMurray, and the horse flies were just unreal. It was terrible. I did find that some bug spray, mosquito repellent, and whatnot did help some, but yeah, again, as you're riding, you are definitely going to feel those hits and feel the impact for that. What motorcycle did you take on this ride?
Funny story about the motorcycle is, when I was in Yellowknife, I actually had a Shadow 1100, but there was another guy up there who, in 2013, late in the season, he said, "Rob, you need to sell me your bike because it's too small for you, because I'm a bigger guy." And he said, "No, it's just too small for you." So I did one of those things where you throw out a price that you figure, yeah, if he's crazy enough to pay it, sure, I'd sell my bike. And then, so I was getting ready to head further north, in a couple of days. He comes in and goes, "I'll take it." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm about to head out of town, like in a matter of hours." So I said, "Well, it was a family friend." I said, "Here's the key. Test ride it for the month while I'm away. Just make sure this is really what you want." I came back from away, and he walks into my office at work and just hands me an envelope full of $100 bills. I said, "Damn, I guess I need to buy a bike." Then over that winter in 2014, in the spring, was when I was diagnosed. And so we kept being flown down to Edmonton for all the specialist appointments. And the day the oncologist said, "You have cancer," my wife and I, we jumped in the rental car. We figured we'd go for lunch. We had seen this one pub that we knew was going to be on our way. Happened to be right beside Cycle Works down in the south end there.
So
And
75th Street and whatever Roper Road. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so we pulled into the restaurant parking lot, and we're doing all the phone calls of, my mom, our kids and all that stuff, saying, "Yeah, it's official. The doctor confirmed it is cancer," all that stuff. I looked at my wife and said, "I want a new bike." So we wandered into the dealership, and he was like, "Well, if you want a black one, I have one in a box right over there." And so I bought a 2014 Victory Cross Country, and black one because that's the one he had in the box right over there. And so it's a 2014 Victory Cross Country that I still have. It's still what I ride today. I have 78,000 kilometers on it, I think it is. So I actually didn't pick it up until August 2014, when we actually moved to Edmonton. And then I went into treatment on August 22nd. So I didn't actually ride that much that first season.
You made me look up that model because I was not aware of what the cross country looked like. I've seen your bike that you ride. I had no idea about the naming cross country. So it is an 8-ball with bags, or like it tells me.
Well, the eight ball is a trim line.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so you can get the cross country 8-ball. You can get they had their hammer 8-ball. They had
Okay.
8-ball was sort of a trim line. It was more blacked out stuff like that. So the cross country and cross country tour are essentially, they're almost the street glide kind of model, where you can get it with a tour pack or not with a tour pack. Big hard bags, nice stretched out, comfortable seating position, which is what I like about it, because I was looking at bikes knowing I needed another one. And, a lot of Harleys, I feel I'm sitting way forward. And whereas the Victory seating position on the cross country, it's sitting me further back, which is what I really enjoy. Being 6'5", not having to spend a whole bunch of money modifying a motorcycle, it's kind of not a bad thing.
6'5". Oh my goodness, I had no idea as well.
Tend to stand out in the crowd.
Yeah, I bet. I definitely don't. I have no idea what the range is, but being a cross country motorcycle, that's the name. I'm sure the range is quite good. I am very well aware there are long stretches between fuel. I believe the longest stretch, well, I thought the longest stretch was 310 kilometers from Fort Providence into Yellowknife, which my motorcycle will do. But now you tell me in our little pre-chat that that's not the case anymore. Did you bring extra fuel with you? Were you worried about running out of fuel?
So yeah, so my cross country, yeah, it's got a 23-liter tank. If I'm moderate on the throttle or not in a heavy headwind, I can get 400 kilometers to a tank. But at the same time, I once left Edmonton heading towards BC, and my low fuel light come on before I even made it to Hinton. Because if you got a heavy headwind and you got this cruise control set at 130, your fuel economy kind of goes. So I did take a little 1-gallon can because I had it and put it on in my tail bag, just because you never know. So at the time, there were gas stations in Enterprise and Fort Providence. And yeah, so when you're leaving Yellowknife, there's a sign that says, next fuel 310 kilometers. And also the fuel is not premium, it's 87 octane. So you might not get the same fuel economy as you would on premium. So when I topped right up in Fort Providence, then heading into Yellowknife, literally I could see town when the low fuel light came on. Of course, that then still gives me 5 liters. So I was in pretty good shape there, but I still carried the extra small gallon can of fuel. There are people who do it with smaller tanks. The guy who bought my Honda Shadow, which was just a cruiser with a 220 kilometer tank, he rode it down to Edmonton and carried a lot of gas. But also the riding community in Yellowknife is pretty cool. There was a Facebook group called NWT Riders, and if they know someone's coming, sometimes they might take a gallon can and head out and meet you 100 kilometers out, things like that. Like, guys seem to be okay to go for a ride. If they happen to know you're coming, might come out and meet you. If you have a big group ride, I've had friends who will throw a couple 5-gallon cans in their pickup and drive 120 kilometers out. There's a little park on Great Slave Lake, and they'll wait there for the group to come in and top anyone who needs it there. So fuel is something you do have to plan accordingly. And like I said, not having premium north of high level is something to keep in mind. Now, when I heard that the Enterprise was shutting down their gas station, I figure something has to be set up somewhere along the road. I don't know if Indian Cabins is going to start doing fuel again or what other options, but I'm sure there's something, and it's just a matter of doing some searches in the months beforehand to find out where the fuel is.
Hay River is not too far. I think Hay River is only a half an hour north of Enterprise as it is. And there's a couple of fuel stations there. That seems to be a bit larger town. I did mention to you off camera as well that for this trip, just because I have a lot of unknowns, and we are going to be bringing a support vehicle, a pickup truck. We will have extra fuel. I will have fuel on the bike with me anyways, just in case we get separated.
You're golden then, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Hay River is like a 20-minute detour one way off the highway.
Right.
It's a bit of a pain. Like, yeah, it's there, but it's also right at that range where it is that, if I remember correctly, it was 275 kilometers from high level to Enterprise. And that number sticks in my mind. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it was like 275 kilometers. So it is kind of, then you got the extra, I think it's, 40 kilometers into Hay River. So that's kind of putting you that 300 plus range anyway. And then coming out of there, you got the 40 kilometers back to Enterprise and then like 130 to Fort Providence. Easily doable, but it takes an hour of your travel time. on already going to be a long day.
And that's where I think we're going to play it by, ear when we're out there. Do we want to head up there? Do we not want to? As far as I did think about the no premium fuel as well. So that's something that we're going to remedy with octane boost. A little bottle will go a long way with that, even if we have a couple of bottles. Like I say, we have a support vehicle. I just want to be prepared. How did your motorcycle perform? Obviously, it was a brand new motorcycle, so I'm sure everything was smooth, but I have to ask.
Yeah, no, I had about probably 25,000, maybe 30,000, not even 30,000 on it by that point in time. And no, it was fine. And it has electronic cruise control, which is good. Set the cruise and off you go. Everything performed well. And I didn't put in the octane boost. Just I don't worry about it too much when it's just one tank and I'm not trying to blast a lot. I'm just gonna cruise along. Pulled into Yellowknife with my little fuel light on. Went straight to the shell. Got premium. So I knew it was just sort of a temporary thing and it wasn't going to do any adverse long-term impacts. I did, do all the standard stuff, like, because you're now talking 3,000 kilometers round trip. So make sure your tires have that much life left. I checked all that stuff before you go, and as long as you're not going to need an oil change and stuff like that. So it's very easy to plan for a trip of that length.
Yeah. And my next question here is in regards to the reason why you did cover that a little bit, wanting to make it to that festival. Did you make it to that
Oh yeah. Yeah. I made it up for that trip, and because it had been a couple years, and I left very quickly. And when I left on like very short notice out of Yellowknife, so being able to go back and visit people who I didn't really have a chance to almost say goodbye to was why I wanted to get back at some point. This was sort of my first opportunity to go back and say goodbye to the people I had missed, even though it'd been a couple of years. You're still friends, and I still keep in touch with them to this day. But it just makes everything work to go back for a motorcycle event, which is their Midnight Sun Rally.
Yeah, I was going to ask how long you're there for and some of the highlights of the trip, but maybe we'll just skip to the highlights of the trip overall.
Well, so so I was only there a couple of days, just visiting people. So you got go back and head for a drink at some of the local watering holes and some of that kind of fun stuff. But just for me, the highlights were just going back visiting people. I did, because this bike hadn't been to Yellowknife. I had to do the mandatory. There's a big Yellowknife sign in front of town. There's a big plane on a pedestal. So you go over. You got to get all those pictures. You got to go over to Buffalo Airways, because at the time that's when Ice Pilot's TV show was ongoing. So you got to go get a picture with the Buffalo plane and all that kind of stuff. So you do the standard touristy things and get all those pictures with that bike that I didn't have when I lived up there.
No, awesome. Yeah, fair enough. I definitely will be doing that myself as well, being very tourist with our trip. I am going with a previous resident of Yellowknife as well, who's been there before. I don't know what the itinerary is yet for the trip, but we'll be finding out shortly. I know there's waterfalls. I don't know how there's waterfalls there. I know there's going to be a couple of hikes. We're going to spend 2 full days on there. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, there's a set of falls actually on your ride up there that you'll probably detour off and stop to. I can't remember the exact name of them, but there is another one set of falls out towards the ice roads, out towards Prelude Lake, Cameron Falls, I think it's called. It's a nice little walk for just water falling over a nice rock. It's pretty cool. Nice little walk, and just different scenery that you don't expect to see up there. But yeah, there is the one big falls on the road up there that for the life of me, I didn't think to look up. But they're not far inside the NWT border. And it's a huge river that cascades. So that's a big one. So yeah, he'll probably want to take you to some of the touristy places. Like you got to go to the Bullock's Bistro, because it if you think you've seen a a hole in the wall restaurant, this will redefine your perspective of that, because I think the foundation is a little bit crooked. So nothing's really square, but the fish is to die for. Wildcat Cafe, it's a little log cabin where they'll serve you beer. You got to get kicked out of the Gold Range pub. You know, there's just some neat things to say. You do it in Yellowknife once while you're there, kind of thing. If you watch the first season of like the Ice Road Truckers, you can go to that pub. But Yellowknife's a pretty small town. It's not as though there's a lot to do there. You'll have fun doing it, and it'll, you know. I remember, so when we moved up, we drove up. We had a travel trailer, and pulled into the campground just on the edge of town while waiting for our furniture to show up to move into our house. And so one of the guys who I was about to work with, when he found out I was in town, said, well, they're doing like an East Coast night. And I was moving from Halifax. He goes, they're having an East Coast night at the Black Knight pub. I'm like, we're in. So we called a cab, took a cab in, then basically closed the pub down. We walk out of the pub and it's still light. And we're like, oh yeah, that's going to be a thing. So, you know, you're going to have to stay up till the middle of the night and go, ooh.
Very cool. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm very excited to go, even more so now after chatting with you. Yeah. So with regards to you talking about some of the things to do while in Yellowknife, any sites that you would very specifically recommend or en route that you, any recommendations?
There's not a lot, you know, everything's kind of, there's not a lot of unique stuff, but yeah, there's the falls when you hit the border, the first set of falls, they're kind of cool. But because you have the sport vehicle, and that means you can carry stuff, when you head to what they call Old Town, there's a couple boutique shops where you can get souvenirs and stuff. And I highly recommend, I think it's called like something of the Midnight Sun. And it was like, it's where I went to buy all the Christmas gifts that I would send to people, because it's very unique, very northern, very Arctic, because it's just, they, you know, a lot of stuff up there, they don't truck in a lot of stuff because everything's weight. A lot of trucking costs money. And so having the ability to get something unique from there, Gallery of the Midnight Sun, it's out towards Old Town, neat little hole in the wall shop that has, if you want tourist stuff, that's very cool, like wine glasses that are etched with a bison on them, stuff like that. And go to the Black Knight pub to have a bison burger. It is a good meat. I highly recommend that. You know, I'll warn you now, prices are a little higher than you're probably going to be used to. Other than that, there's a lot of neat monuments. Like there's one in the Old Town on top of a hill that gives you a very good viewpoint, the main bay of Yellowknife on Great Slave Lake. You'll see the big plane when you come into town. You can check that out. There are some neat monuments and history up there that are totally worth checking out, because it is the end of the road. There's one road in, one road out. You know, yes, you can. There's another road out, but it dead ends. So when you have to come out on the same road you went in on. There's no options there.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Anything you regret not doing while you were there? I know you lived there, so you know it's not like you were a tourist. I knew you were doing touristy things, but was that the last time you were there? Anything you wish you did while you were there because you are never sure when you'll be back?
Yeah, so I actually haven't been back, and then my wife and I are talking about if we retire to an RV again, that's one place where we want to go again. You know, it's the wrong time of year, but if I'm going to go back, I want to go back where I can see the Northern Lights again. If you actually go really far back in my YouTube channels, one of the first videos I posted was when I was seeing the Northern Lights through the winter. So one time when I was down in Ottawa, I bought like that $1,200 DLSR camera where you could aim it at the sky, make all your settings, and get those nighttime photos of the Northern Lights. And then because they move, I was taking like, you know, a 2-second exposure every 3 seconds. And then I pieced them together to make a 30-second video where you can see the motion. That's what I kind of want to get. If I could go back, if I could easily pick when I go back, it would actually probably be in March to go back for Northern Lights viewing again. That's that's one of those things where it can't be explained. And because, especially if you get a few kilometers outside of town, like you can drive for an hour outside Edmonton and still see the lights of Edmonton because the light pollution just is blowing up the sky. In Yellowknife, you get a little bit outside of town, there is no light pollution at all. And that's kind of a neat thing in the winter, being able to get a little bit away from the light and just seeing how bright the sky can be.
Very cool. Because I am a gear guy through and through, was there any specific item or motorcycle gear that made the trip better, or maybe that you wish you had brought with you instead?
Well, I think the best thing I had was cruise control, because even leaving Edmonton, you're getting out on the highway and just, you got to put down miles. And so, I stayed the night in High Level, got a hotel room, and but that's still a 7.5, 8 hour saddle time ride. So you have to cover a lot of miles, which isn't the normal motorcycle trip. Normally with motorcycle, you're all over the place and checking things out. This one, you have to get some miles now. So the cruise control was a nice thing for that. Also, for me heading into BC from Edmonton, cruise control is great to just get on the Yellowhead, go. So that the ability to rest my throttle hand was probably the best factor, because I can't imagine doing that trip and having to hold the throttle 8 hours a day.
I'm actually glad you bring that, because this gives me opportunity to mention about the Atlas throttle lock, which I'm official rider for. My right hand seems to get sore if I don't know why. I don't know if I don't think I have a death grip on it, but it just gets sore if I hold it. So being able to, just even temporarily lock the throttle in place and just rest my hand, just give it a good rest. Anything for comfort to reduce that, tiring you out. The less effort, the better. No, I completely agree. But yeah, otherwise, you mentioned full face helmet. I'm sure you had, you said rain gear as well. I like to have waterproof gear when I go anywhere that's good for rain or sun or whatnot.
Yeah, so I always travel rain gear in my left saddlebag. On a long trip, I'll put my chaps on, and I use a heavy leather jacket, my normal riding gear. So that way when the bugs do hit your legs, you've had at least some level of protection. Just your standard gear, really. Now, depending on how used you are to long trips, even with a visor, remember a little bit of sunscreen, because the sun stays up so long, even when you get into high level, you're just not realizing how much the sun's just beating down on you. The sun's always high in the sky.
Right. Anything else you want to share on the trip? We covered quite a bit.
It's a great trip. I'd love to join you, but my schedule won't allow that from here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where, like, the first year I wanted to do it, I actually put a post on a couple local motorcycle pages the first time I was going to try and do it. And so I laid out my plan and put it on. I said, I'm planning on doing this trip. Who's coming? And then, actually there was about a bunch of people said yes. But then due to my cancer schedule, I messaged and said, okay, guys, I'll see you guys off, but I have to go for treatment, so I can't go. And I'm still friends with a bunch of those people who did that trip, and they were so glad that I basically, in their mind, I encouraged them to go.
Right.
And their statement to me was, when they posted some pictures and they just said, extraordinary things don't happen to ordinary people who, you have to get out of your comfort zone to go do a trip like that. And and I try to explain to a lot of people, they're like, oh, it was like, well, I've been to a place that, 2% of Canadians have been north of the 60th parallel. So you got to stop for the standard photo of the north of 60 sign. And then when my wife and I were leaving, we actually pulled in and got a picture taken of us of the back of the sign, and that was our quirky thing, because everyone gets a picture going up where, you know, this, and so when we're leaving, we stopped and got a picture of the back of the sign.
Hey, well, I guess that's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. I really thank you, Rob, for joining me on this. Thank you so much for taking your time. Once again, please go check Rob out. His channel is Dead Nought. I'll have a link to his video down below in my description. Stay tuned to my channel where I'll be sharing my trip to Yellowknife. Look for that end of July, beginning of August. It'll probably be mid-August till I get around to editing the video and whatnot. But yeah, thanks again, Rob. I really appreciate it. And
Thanks for having me. There could be a blooper reel at the end of this.
There we go.